I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. A fight in Illinois over adoptions by same-sex couples. We'll have the latest. Plus, young women come from all around the world to learn what it means to be a sister of the poor.
It is normal to think I want a boyfriend, I want a family, but listen the voice of God.
And what do you think about Congressman Anthony Weiner's Twitter scandal? We'll have reaction from Brooklyn and Queens.
He's a human being that made a mistake. That's the way I feel. I would definitely vote for him again.
Disgusted. I mean, who does that?
Well, good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. Arguments about rights for same-sex couples are a hot topic here in New York, where time is ticking for the state legislature to vote on same-sex marriage. But the Empire State is not the only place where homosexual rights are the topic of the day. Take Illinois, where a new law giving couples in civil unions the same rights as married couples went into effect June 1st. The Diocese of Rockford announced that it would end its adoption and foster care placement services as a result of the new law. The diocese said that under the law, it would have been forced to provide adoption and foster care services to same-sex and unmarried couples in civil unions. And yesterday, 3 other dioceses in Illinois took it a step further, announcing legal action to fight the law. The Diocese of Springfield, Joliet, and Peoria are asking for a declaration that they are legally justified in only granting adoptions to married couples and single, non-cohabitating individuals. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined now by the lawyer representing these 3 Illinois dioceses. He's Peter Breen of the Thomas More Society. Peter, thanks so much for taking some time out for us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, first of all, kind of break this down for us. Now, the law, I understand, is called the State of Illinois Religious Freedom Protection and Civil Unions Act. What exactly is the language in this bill that kind of has people up in arms?
Well, that act was meant to bring civil unions to Illinois, but throughout the debate, there was constantly this reference to the religious freedom provision. There is a provision in the act that says that the religious practices of religious entities are not going to be impeded by the civil unions. And there was floor debate on the issue where it was clarified that religious adoption agencies are not going to be forced to follow these particular laws on civil unions. And so now that was how it was debated, that was how it was passed, and now after the fact, we've got folks from the ACLU and then others, and even the Attorney General, who has now opened an investigation of Catholic Charities, accusing them of discrimination. All those folks are now saying that this act somehow does not protect the religious freedom of these 3 Catholic dioceses and their Catholic charities.
So basically what you, and if I understand this correctly, what the suit is asking is that the clarification is made that you were right in your understanding of the law at the time it was passed.
Right, Matt, and that's the thing, that we have sought leave of court to decide this dispute. It's called a declaratory judgment. So if the Attorney General's on one side, we're on the other. We filed a 35-page complaint that includes legal argument and various details about the case. And so now it's in front of the court. We would love to get a negotiated solution with the state of Illinois officials, but at the same time, we need to move quickly. And if we can't get that negotiated solution, we are going to seek for court relief, so the court will tell us definitively that Catholic charities are fully in accord with the law and are doing everything that they're supposed to do. And this has been Catholic Charities' continued practice for decades. So there's nothing new that Catholic Charities has done here, and we don't see that they are legally obligated to do anything else differently from this point forward.
Sure, and obviously you're doing this in a judicial manner, using the judicial system to try and rectify this right now. But is there a possibility of something coming forward, like the agencies getting something resembling the, say, conscience clause provisions for healthcare workers?
Well, the state legislature. So in the state legislature, after the Attorney General had opened the investigation and the ACLU had come out saying that somehow this law meant something different than what we had been told during the floor debate, the legislature, certain members came forth and tried to put an additional provision in that made it incredibly explicit and clear that agencies like Catholic Charities are not bound by this law as regards to adoption and foster care services. In fact, the Senate sponsor of the Religious Freedom Protection and Civil Unions Bill was one of the sponsors of this this clarification. So obviously he, as the sponsor of the original bill, thought that the original bill had provided this. And so that was attempted in the Illinois legislature. It failed right at the end of May, and then on June 1st, the civil unions became effective. So now, with all of that happening, these dioceses felt they needed to turn to the judicial branch, having lost not gotten any further relief from the legislative branch, and looking at the executive branch, the Attorney General, saying that that Catholic Charities is not in the right.
Right. Well, in the Diocese of Rockford, as we said, announced that they were going to stop their adoption and foster care placement services. These other three dioceses, do they even have the option of continuing their work, but to providing services that might not quite be in line with Catholic teaching? Is that even an option for them?
Oh, I don't think that it's an option for Catholic Charities to turn its back on Catholic teaching. I mean, it's in the name of the entity, and what these Catholic Charities have done instead is to take a very conservative small step, which is to pause new applicants. They get about 5 new applications a month in each diocese, a little over 1 a week. And they've actually got a backlog of potential foster parents that are waiting for kids, so they can still fulfill all of the services that need to be provided to the existing kids in the system and any new kids coming into the system. So they've just taken a pause of accepting new applicants while we work this out to get that clear declaration that our view of Illinois law, which we've laid out in great detail, is the correct view.
Right. All right. Well, Peter Breen with the Thomas More Society, we thank you so much for your time, sir. Really appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch as this thing moves forward.
Hey, thank you much, Matt.
Thank you. Well, stay tuned. There is much more currents ahead. As the legislative session heads into the home stretch, the debate over same-sex marriage in New York is picking up even more steam. We'll have that story plus the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, after a serious scandal, does Anthony Weiner have a chance to survive? We'll hear what people in his congressional district have to say. But first, let's have a look at today's headlines. Well, with just 6 days left on the state's legislative calendar, advocates on both sides of New York's same-sex marriage debate have raised the stakes. Nick Reisman has details.
It's a prospect some Republican lawmakers don't want to face, losing support from the state's small but powerful conservative party. As the battle over same-sex marriage heats up, the party's powerful chairman Mike Long has vowed any Republican who supports the measure would lose his party's line. It's a potent threat for legislators who need multiple lines to win re-election.
It was getting closer for them to make a decision what they were going to do, and I asked the leaders up and down the state of New York to reinforce our position and remind the legislators that we passed a resolution, that is, the state executive committee did, saying very clearly that anyone who supports destroying traditional marriage will, in fact, not get the Conservative Party endorsement.
It's a promise that Senate Republicans, who hold a narrow majority, take seriously.
But I don't view this as a threat. I mean, I look at Mike Long. He stands on a certain core set of principles, and he tells you, this is right and this is wrong.
But on the side supporting the measure are a host of advocacy groups, business leaders, and unions. In Albany Tuesday, members of 1199 SEIU United Hospital Workers lobbied fence-sitting legislators on the issue.
We're meeting with several Democratic senators who voted no last year, and we're meeting with several Republican senators, including Senator Skelos, about coming on board this year.
Well, that report from Nick Reisman. Meanwhile, the New York State Catholic Conference has been urging people to contact their legislators to voice opposition to the bill. Well, from Nigeria, Muslim extremists are believed to be responsible for a bomb that killed 11 people and seriously damaged a Catholic cathedral. A bishop in Nigeria told Fidesz news agency that windows and doors of St. Patrick's Cathedral in northern Nigeria were destroyed. The bishop says another Catholic church and school were damaged by a bomb explosion 2 weeks earlier. Well, the ordination of a bishop in China has reportedly been postponed. According to Catholic news agency, the ordination was postponed because it did not have the Vatican's approval. There are also reports, though, that the man scheduled to be ordained was against it. The ordination was set to take place on Friday. No new date has been announced. An English cardinal who was part of the apostolic visitation of the church in Ireland says the Irish church needs prayers. Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor tells Vatican Radio that the Irish church has been through a horrendous time. He says recovery will, quote, take time, good leadership, the gift of the Spirit, and sincere repentance. Pope Benedict ordered the apostolic visitation back in 2010 after reports of widespread abuse at church institutions in Ireland. Well, the Iranian women's soccer team will not be heading to the 2012 Olympics in London this summer after all. Soccer's governing body, FIFA, refused to allow the Iranian women's soccer team to wear hijabs or headscarves. Now, the decision banned them from playing in an important Olympic qualifying match. The head of Iran's soccer federation is protesting the decision. The Iranians say the decision is illogical, but FIFA says match officials applied the rules correctly. Well, the main supporter of a proposal to ban circumcisions in Santa Monica, California, has dropped efforts to get the issue on the ballot in November. Gina Troutman told the Jewish Journal that she would withdraw the proposed ballot initiative over concerns raised that it was an attack on religious freedom. Troutman says the argument should not have been about religion. She says 95% of families are not circumcising boys for religious reasons. A similar measure is still scheduled to appear on the ballot in San Francisco. It would make the circumcision of boys under the age of 18 a misdemeanor. A former pastor accused of stealing $3,000 from his Illinois Catholic Church is expected to plead guilty. The attorney for Father John Reagan says the priest is expected to plead guilty to one count of stealing $100,000. Reagan is accused of putting money from the church in a personal account and withdrawing it from ATMs at riverboat casinos. Well, a new poll from Quinnipiac University shows Americans are more comfortable with the idea of a Catholic president than with the president of another religion. The poll shows 60% of voters are, quote, entirely comfortable with a Catholic in the White House. 23% are somewhat comfortable. According to the poll, only 21% of Americans were entirely comfortable with a Muslim president, while 17% were somewhat comfortable. And the Archdiocese of Boston has opened the sainthood cause for the priest who established Opus Dei in the U.S. That according to a report in the Boston Catholic newspaper, The Pilot. Father Joseph Muzquiz was born in Spain. He joined the Nationalist Army during the Spanish Civil War and was ordained in 1944. He helped establish Opus Dei centers in Chicago and Washington, D.C., and did work for the organization in other parts of the world before finally settling in Massachusetts. He died back in 1983. And, you know, with temperatures reaching a high of 94 degrees today, on tap for 97 tomorrow, well, New York City has opened its cooling centers, thankfully. To find out more about where you can go to beat the heat, head on over to our blog. Go to currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave. Well, stay with us. There's much more Currents ahead. When we return, young women from around the world gather in New York to generate compassion and hope.
I and we need to share our life with the people, all the people. So I invite the people to come and see.
Welcome back. Well, something from the Department of Corrections first here as we continue on. In the last segment, the story about former Chicago pastor accused of stealing money from his church in Illinois, rather. It's in the state of Illinois. It should have been he's accused of stealing $300,000. I said 300. 300,000, tomato, right? It says it right there, the word thousand on the script, but my eyes just kind of skipped over that. It's $300,000 he was accused of stealing. Well, moving on now, and if you watch Currents on a regular basis, you know we talk a lot about religious vocations on this show. In fact, this past weekend, we covered the ordination ceremony pretty extensively for the Diocese of Brooklyn's 3 newly minted priests. And while the number of ordained men might be on the rise in this diocese, the number of women in religious life is on the decline, at least nationwide, that is. Earlier this year, Religion News Service reported that the number of religious sisters in the U.S. is estimated to be around 59,000. Now, that's down from a peak of 180,000 in the mid-1960s. What's more, less than 1% of women religious are under the age of 40. Less than 1%, yeah. Well, with these dismal numbers in mind, the Franciscan Sisters of the Poor called together young women from all around the world who are already in the early stages of their religious formation. Now, last week they held a seminar in Brooklyn called Sowing Seeds of Healing, and they held it to discuss their place in the world of service and ministry.
Today we gather here in Brooklyn, in our general house, with the younger members of our congregation coming from Brazil, Italy, Senegal. For this seminar, our theme was generating compassion and hope in the community of life. And we wanted to engage particularly the younger members because they are the present and they are the future.
I live in Italy, but I know that the charism of Franciscan Sister of the Poor is all over the world.
Mother Francis was called by the Holy Spirit to serve the wounds of Christ in the poor and suffering humanity. That was back in 1845, and we are still here carrying on her legacy.
I'm joyful for the possibility that our congregation has given me to stay here.
We can meet and love each other.
They need to be exposed to an international reality, which is our reality as a congregation.
The importance of religious life for me is that many brothers and sisters are in need. So if I am a religious, I can help.
I'm a student of medicine, and to tell the truth, taking care only of the body of the people wasn't enough. I wanted to do something more.
Many times we wonder why people don't enter religious life, and I think there are several reasons.
I think you are not free to do what you want.
People today is afraid for many things. Above all, for changing. I think that we have to follow our deep desires.
I would encourage people to follow religious life, first of all because it's a wonderful journey into a spiritual life, a more meaningful life, and really we have a lot of opportunities.
Religious life is wonderful. I'm sure of this.
I and we need to share our life with the people, all the people. So I invite the people to come and see.
I understand that this is not the most common choice today. It is normal to think I want a boyfriend, I want a family. But listen to the voice of God.
Well, the foundress of the Franciscan Sisters of the Poor, Blessed Frances Xavier, was beatified back in 1974. The sisters are now pursuing her cause for sainthood after someone in Cincinnati, Ohio recently reported a miracle attributed to Mother Frances' intercession. Well, stay with us. There's much more currents coming up. Coming up, Anthony Weiner's constituents speak out.
He should resign. I definitely will vote for him anymore.
Well, finally tonight, it is the headline that just does not seem to be going away anytime soon. It's been 2 days now since Congressman Anthony Weiner put an end to the lies and finally fessed up to sending graphic pictures and messages to 6 women over the last 3 years, some of them even taking place during his less than a year-old marriage. Now, despite his confession, the Twitter-tarnished congressman, who represents parts of Brooklyn and Queens, insists that he is staying put and he refuses to quit his congressional seat. So, to resign or not to resign, that is the question everyone seems to be asking today, not only in the halls of Congress, where the House is contemplating an ethics investigation into his online affairs. According to a recent New York One Marist poll, 51% of New Yorkers do not think that the scandal-scarred representative should be forced to resign his House seat. But are his constituents in the 9th District specifically in an equally forgiving mood? Well, CNN's Mary Snow put the question of Weiner's resignation to the court of public opinion in Weiner's Queens Congressional District.
A handwritten note left outside Congressman Anthony Weiner's Brooklyn office is clear in its message: resign. It comes one day after Weiner admitted having inappropriate relationships online with about 6 women over a 3-year period.
I wasn't telling the truth. I had done something that was dishonorable. I had lied.
At the El Greco Diner, there was only one subject on the menu.
He should resign. I definitely won't vote for him anymore. I look at him like a different person now. He's not the same.
He made a mistake. He's a human being that made a mistake. That's the way I feel. I would definitely vote for him again.
Litmus Quia, Republican, says several politicians have set a low bar of expectations.
So realistically, I think he will survive this. So why should he resign? But morally, I think he should.
Weiner has served in New York's 9th District for 13 years and has long had his eye on City Hall, raising $5 million for a potential 2013 mayoral race. But former Democratic Mayor Ed Koch says that is now out of the question.
While I believe he has no chance of becoming mayor, I do believe that his constituents could ultimately accept him if he shows sufficient contrition.
But close to Weiner's home in Queens, constituents are still reeling from his stunning admissions.
It's just a sad thing. It's, the neighborhood loves him, I'm sure, and it's just a shocking thing that he did.
Do you think he should resign?
It's hard to say.
So what was your opinion of him before yesterday?
I thought it was awesome.
You thought he was awesome before yesterday?
Yeah.
And now?
Disgusted. I mean, who does that?
I think he should resign, but, and take some time and, deal with what's happened. And then after that, come back.
As Congressman Weiner is hunkered down here in Queens, some constituents worry that Monday's revelations might just be the tip of the iceberg, that further damaging disclosures may give him no choice of staying in office.
Well, that is CNN's Mary Snow reporting in Queens, and yeah, definitely a wide range of opinions there. I'm kind of the opinion that I'm just kind of tired of talking about it and hearing about it, but like I said, it's one of those stories that doesn't seem to want to go away. And well, hopefully there'll be no new developments in it for a while so we can stop talking about it, right? I'll be grateful for that. Well, be sure to join us tomorrow when we'll give you some tips on how you can actually beat the heat. It is hot outside, isn't it? You can beat the heat and have some fun at the same time. We'll show you that coming up tomorrow. Now, speaking of fun and good times, this brought a smile on my face today. I'd like to send a little bit of a shout out to a very special fan of NET, Karen A. Thank you so much for supporting Good TV and the work that we do here at Currents. It's always good to get some great feedback from you guys out there in TV land. Speaking of feedback or even reaction to the Anthony Weiner Twitter scandal, I want you to hear about it. If you're tired of hearing about it, tell us, okay? Why not drop us a line at currentsny@currentsny.net. You can also visit us online at currentsny.net. We're also on Facebook and we're on Twitter. We are at currentsny. That is our Twitter handle. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.